Welcome back to Metal of Honour. I'm Yidna. This is a very short video, only about 15 minutes. Just real basic engraving techniques. This is going to be so useful to sort of get the knowledge of. Just so you can make these first few sort of marks at certain angles. But this is really going to sort of push forward into like the main tutorials, especially with the two-tone clustering that I've recently made and put a video on a couple of weeks ago. But when it comes to the stone setting, a lot of stone setting is all about just basic engraving. But yeah, we're just going to jump straight in, and I'll just talk you through some of these little manoeuvres and stuff. So this is just the sort of knife edge spit stick. All of this relies on your tool being sharp. So at first, you can see the angle that I'm basically leaning at, and you're just pushing in a little bit, flicking up, pushing in, flicking up. This is the very first sort of manoeuvre that you want to do, just to get a perfectly straight line. You can see from like the studio lights, it is actually showing that it's got all like those little push marks in it, so it's not completely continuous. But a lot of that does come later. Also, from that first line, that's me doing it the basic way, all the way along. Once you've perfected that, you can do longer, straighter manoeuvres and flicking out, stronger. Just getting stronger with the tool is what I mean. You're not jamming this in and sort of like just start trying to rip it across the metal. All of this is practice. But the more you do this, I know I say it with absolutely everything, the more practice, but literally everything is practice. And if you've got a bit of scrap like this, you're good to go. I did already actually record this video, but sadly, like the studio lights were so bright, by the time I got it on the computer to start editing, it was just too white and couldn't get the lighting correct. Hopefully in the new studio in a couple of weeks that I've got the keys for now, I'll be able to do some real sort of in-depth engraving tutorials. But the reason this one looks black is because I've oxidized the surface of the silver. But this is literally just to help with the just to get the footage. And you can see there I put that same GRS quick release spit stick or knife edge scalper into the air driven graver. So it's like the GRS graver smith. And you can see here with like because it's like foot pedal sort of driven, a bit like the pendant drills, you can get a lot smoother line. But it's not essential. You really do not have to have a nice GRS engraver. It helps you do a few little things a little bit easier. But the same with all my setting videos. I do some mostly hand sort of pushed on the rub over settings. Then the ones where I've done the hammer hand piece, I've generally sort of done a bit of the hand, then that to show the outcome is very similar anyway. It just makes life a little bit easier. So, and you see that I've done a double line with that air graver, very close together, very quickly. It's nice. So this tool now is the 90-degree sort of graver. And it's still, I've still left this one in the actual air hand piece, so that this is my foot pedal that's doing this. But if you're just doing it by hand, you'll just do more gentle cuts. And again, you might just do smaller, shallower ones, flicking out, and then going back into it again, just until you get to the end of the line that you want to do. I say all of these little manoeuvres are very basic, but if you can get the hang of these, you could draw a picture. You could do a sketch of a person on the metal, and you'll be able to engrave it because you've got the basic manoeuvres correctly. So you see this one I've put back into the handpiece again, so I'm doing these little bits by hand. And this, the very knife edge of that tool, you're keeping straight, but you're leaning it and over, leaning it over, leaning it and over. But that point is staying directly on. So with this line, I'm doing less sort of scalloped edges. It's more flicking over and back again, a real quick one, just to really get these sort of like a vine sort of look. I'm not sure what I'm actually going to do for the thumbnail with this one, because it's not that much of an interesting piece. But these little manoeuvres, like the little techniques you're doing here, are so important to mastering literally any engraving. But yeah, but the difference between like the long lean and the short lean is a big key to a lot of the shapes that you're going to be doing. All like traditional running leaf engraving down to like scroll work, which is like a big thing. You can see this line that I've just completed is more like almost like a Jack and the Beanstalk type thing. Like you've got your stalk and you've got your few little vines sort of coming up all the way. But that's also an important one. We're not actually moving to the new studio. At some stage, I'll try and get better footage of this one. Even though you can see it, I would have liked it to have been a bit better. But I will go into like 3D relief engraving as well. And at some stage, I actually do like deep seal signet rings. So on this one, I've gone back to the knife edge sculper. So of course, a straight line, if you've done them a few by now, you find them a lot easier. So this one I've put in the handpiece, in the normal, to do it by hand, just the normal work, GRS mushroom handpiece. So, and a lot of this is to do with twisting the actual left hand or whatever hand you have for rotating the work. And you can see that's a nice circular motion. And the smaller the circle, the harder it is to engrave. So like I say, when I redo the footage and stuff on this and do like a real in-depth engraving video, I'll even show you how to do, like even where I've started that little pivot point in the corner here, from where I've had the compass, I'll actually engrave a circle that small. So it will go into a lot more details. So again, this tool is back in the air graver handpiece again. So it's all footwork, but this is still relying on like my left hand rotating that job, rotating it into the tool, rather than me trying to sort of like arc my arm around like the back, you know. And of course, this is leaning a little bit when you're doing the circle. You do want to sort of lean outwards a little bit just to get that cut in. And of course, this one was engraving around this way. So you see this one, I was about to start doing it that same direction, but going in the other direction is a big key as well, like when it comes to doing curves and circles, because being able to, it's the same as doing like a bright cut on like a rub over stone. You'll always find leaning one way or sort of going around one direction easier than the other, but it really is good to practice doing both. You never know if you're going to be doing some sort of engraving that might have like a centre stone in like in an engagement ring, and the way that you're used to doing it or the way that you like to do it, you can't get there with a tool, like for sort of coming back. So working the other way is it's good practice, good practice in general. So this isn't an essential, but for people that are beginning, it could help quite a bit just to do something that a little bit different. So you see, this is number 10 half round, a half round sculper that you'd normally use for sort of raising grains up on work if you're doing pave setting, all that sort of thing. But you see, like between these sort of two curved tram lines, this is creating like a little scalloped edge. and especially with the tool being sort of sharpened well, polished underneath, doing these little cuts, it just adds an extra dimension. So like when you see this sort of pattern, you can maybe imagine that sort of going around the outside of a wedding band that might have, or like say like a lady's eternity ring. It's got stones over the top, and just like this real sort of delicate engraving sort of feature all the way around the top. You can see that doing something like this, as soon as you've got those two tram lines nicely, I say you could do some between two straight lines as well with practice even. But as long as that tool's sharp and not slipping, you can get straight in there and just flick it. Straight in, flick. It's one of the easiest movements that you could do in engraving. And it's quite effective to how your piece will look. And of course, instead of just keeping it here, I'll put the 90-degree sculper back into the handpiece and sort of double backing. So you see now I'm going from the other side, and like the little bits of metal that are left, literally just taking them away. Sort of just doing away with it. It adds more reflection, especially when the tools are sharp. If you haven't seen my tool sharpening video, it's down there in the list somewhere. For maybe like a month or two ago. It's not too far back, but this is very reliant on your tool being sharp. This is only silver, so you don't need to sharpen it that often. If you do a few sort of dodgy moves that might be like a little bit angled up too high and steep, there's certain things that will make your tool sort of will go a little bit blunt, a little bit quicker. So as long as you're doing it sort of at like the angles that you've seen me doing it at, it should stay quite sharp. But definitely watch the sharpening video just to get your head around that, of like different angles and different ways of polishing. Now this little thing, like when you very first learn stone setting, especially like grain setting, I'm talking about like pave. Again, some people call it pave, some people call it grain. It's generally called grain setting if it's something in a straight line, and it's normally called pave if it's like sort of multiple layers of stones next to each other. Because like pave, obviously the word like meaning path, so it sort of creates like wider lines of multiple stones. So like back in, well, sort of nearly 30 years ago or something, or 25 years ago when I sort of started doing that proper stone setting, we'd be doing this in copper 2p pieces, sort of in setting cement, sort of doing your grains. But you can see how I'm doing them grains. You poking it in so it grips, and then it's really pushing just forwards. You're not twisting, you're not rocking, it's just a forwards motion. And again, if your tool's not sharp, it's just going to slip. That's the big thing about the sharpening. It's going to cut nicer, and if it's not sharp, you are going to slip. Like I've got so many scars in the side of my left hand, like in the side of my knuckle, where some of these tools have gone like down, like bruised the bone. And that still happens now and again. But again, when you've got a grain like this, you'll go up both sides, but there's loads of different ways of setting. Like when you see me doing like the cluster soon, I'll actually be doing these tram lines first around the stones. So when I sort of do the grains over, a lot of the excess metal is it's already been removed, so it's literally gone. Well, like I say, it's the reason I've done this channel. There's so many things to teach, and it's only really by sort of watching the whole video, listening to all these little techniques, while I'm actually doing this, like through the commentary, that you're going to find out all this other like little bits of knowledge. It's things that you're just not going to be able to Google, like certain questions. If you type it in Google, because there's a lot of things that I've spoken about that I thought, I wonder if I Google it, if that's actually going to come up with an answer, if someone was to do that, or if someone were to do that. And nothing, just it's like the internet is blank of a lot of the things I speak about, which I wasn't expecting. But yeah, so this is like a little grain tool. I can't remember if it was a number of 8 or 9 or something. You might have seen it there, but that doesn't really matter. It's only a little tester. But that's those little beads that you see on like the grain set, on the pave set. It's like you sort of put on. Sometimes give like a little rock, sort of going forwards and backwards. So even on these when these go blunt, it's quite easy to slip with these as well. But yeah, I'm literally going to leave it there. Like I say, I've yesterday or day before yesterday, I got the keys to the new workshop. So things are moving forward with that. Trying to do the setup. So trying to sort of do 2 studios at the minute, slowly transferring. But yeah, I'll keep you informed on that one. Thanks for watching this one. Any questions, chuck them down below. And thanks for watching again. Take care.